Good morning, everyone. My name is Remy Rippon, and I'm the Senior Beauty and Health Editor of Vogue Australia. Welcome to Vogue Codes Virtual, our series of free webinars. This is our 5th year we've run Vogue Codes, our crusade to see women empowered by technology. But the first year we've gone digital, so we're really excited about reaching an even bigger audience. I would like to acknowledge our partners, as Vogue Codes wouldn't be possible without their support. Thank you to our presenting partners, Westpac, and supporting partners, Audi, Barbie, Estee Lauder, and Optus. We're really proud to partner with companies not only driving innovation and positive change, but empowering women in technology and science. Before we begin, I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we are meeting. We especially acknowledge the continued strength and resilience of traditional owners during this time of crisis. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of other communities who may be on this platform today. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest, Kate Morris, joining us all the way from Melbourne. Kate founded Adore Beauty, Australia's first beauty e-commerce site, in 1999 when she was just 21. Starting in her garage with a $12,000 loan and a cat for company, she has grown Adore Beauty to a $100 million beauty business with more than 250 brands, over 13,000 products, and hundreds of thousands of customers. Last year, she sold 60% of the business to Quadrant Private Equity. So it's fair to say she knows a lot about e-commerce and the beauty business, and we're looking forward to hearing her perspective on the effect of the pandemic now and in the future. Just before we start, if you have any questions for Kate, please do ask them in the Q&A chat box, and I will do my best to pass on as many as we can. Please also share your thoughts on social. We would love to hear what you think, and use the hashtag Vogue Codes so we can see and share your comments. Okay, let's get started. First of all, Kate, welcome.
Good morning, Remy. How are you? Greetings from Mexico.
Yes, greetings. How are you personally coping during the lockdown? What are you finding helps while you're working from home?
Oh, look, it's a day-to-day proposition, isn't it? It's I'm working from home with little kids, so I've got two under 9, and look, everybody's got their own sort of coping strategies. I like to get out for walks a lot, and I've kind of still got a thing where we have to sort of follow the same routine as if we were going into the office or to school or whatever. So I still have to, get dressed like I was going to work and put some makeup on and do my hair, because that's just, for me, I don't feel like myself if I haven't done that. But look, everyone's got their own vibe.
What do you think about I say this loosely, the work-life balance concept? How is it working for you? Does it even exist at the moment?
Oh, look, it's a rubbish idea, isn't it? And I think that's what we're discovering all about ourselves, once upon a time, it was a funny thing when, that BBC guy's kid kind of walked into the room while he was doing an interview. And I think we've now all had that experience, or anyone. In fact, I'm odds on it's probably going to happen to me today, so we'll see. I think about it more in terms of just work-life integration, because it's really integrated now, because there's no different space for us to be in. So it's just about going, okay, right, well, given that there's not the separation, how do we just make all of that work together? And for me, that's going, okay, right, well, I'm going to go for my walk in the middle of the day, and maybe I'll hop on and do a bit more work later that night after the kids have gone to bed. But it's more just going, okay, right, well, it's all just sort of a bit smushed together at the moment, so let's just make that work and not worry too much about it.
Yeah. And how has the business Adore Beauty been going over the last couple of months?
Oh, look, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, or maybe a rodeo. I don't know what the best metaphor is. I think there's certainly been a lot of uncertainty, and that sort of really rapid transition to working from home, and and now, of course, we're back in lockdown again, and that's sort of another mental shift. But look, I guess as far as how's business is going, we're actually kind of one of the lucky ones because, e-commerce, it's just sort of accelerated that shift to shopping online. So look, we can't complain from that perspective, but look, it's been a ride still.
Yeah. What about some of the customer insights during this time? I can imagine you're maybe seeing less makeup purchases, more skincare. What sort of trends are you seeing at the moment?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. It kind of went through 3 phases. So if you sort of go back to, kind of mid-March, like before the first lockdown, but people are starting to get quite paranoid and the cases are going up, and we saw people kind of panic buying. So we call that's like the toilet paper phase, where it's lots of hand wash and hand sanitizer, and also people panicking that there's going to be kind of like a total lockdown, and so they're buying like shampoo and conditioner, all those sorts of things that they really just don't want to be without. And look, and then we actually sort of went into lockdown, and people went into like a kind of a pampering and self-care phase. So you could tell that people were just feeling a bit sad, and they were buying.
Masking.
Right, that's it, and masking a lot, and sort of home facial devices, and a lot of DIY stuff at this stage as well. So we don't, like nail polish, for instance, not normally that big of a category for us, but all of a sudden nail polish has gone bananas, and candles were up by like 180%, and it was nuts. And like bath products, people just really wanting to sort of soothe themselves, which for me, I've always thought about beauty as really more of a self-care category rather than being about how, what it does for your appearance. It's more about how it makes you feel. But and then after a bit of that, and when the lockdown started to be relaxed, then we started to see makeup go back up a little bit. People still buying lots of skincare and that kind of thing, but starting to buy more appearance related things like makeup, hair tools. And then now, of course, what we're seeing, where we've got Melbourne in lockdown again, but some parts of Australia are quite normal, is that it's really kind of like a state by state split in terms of what the shopping behaviour is. So Melbourne's gone back into our cocooning self-care phase. So lots of candles again. It's really interesting. I feel like we kind of have a window into the minds of the women of Australia.
Yeah. Did you have to make any quick changes? I think one of the buzzwords that's come out of this has been pivots. Have you had any pivots as a business?
Well, look, our big challenge from the get-go was all of a sudden that we were just dealing with volumes that we absolutely hadn't projected for. So just operationally, from our warehouse perspective, we were having to process the number of orders that we hadn't projected to be getting until Christmas next year. And we're just not ready for it. And ordinarily, if you're not in a pandemic, that's okay. You can just roster double the number of people on every shift. But we're also trying to cope with how can we scale up, but make sure that we're really prioritizing people's safety, because having people at risk was absolutely the last thing that we were willing to have. And certainly back in the early days, like there wasn't even a lot of information coming from any. Nobody knew what the safe working practices were, and so really having to try and use our best guess. But once we kind of got into the hang of that, and we had to start operating split shifts so that, there was sort of like 2 teams that don't have any contact with each other, that kind of thing. Once we got the hang of that, then we actually realised that we had a bit of an opportunity to sort of bring things forward and really push out there, because, from a brand awareness perspective, we had literally a captive audience when everyone was in lockdown, and we thought, oh, well, maybe there's actually an opportunity here. And we'd always thought about doing a TV commercial, and we went, well, goodness, are we ever going to get a better opportunity than this? But of course, we were in isolation, and so you want to try and shoot a TV commercial, you can't do that.
No biggie.
So we had to be quite creative and throw it together with sort of bits of footage that we already had, and a lot of it is things shot in people's homes by themselves on their iPhones. But I think we've got the TVC to show you, so you'll see it is a real product of ISO.
Oh, great. Could you tell us about the Beauty Box initiative to support domestic violence charities, which I think you also created during the lockdown period? Actually, I think we've got the TVC here to play, so let's play it.
Oh my God. Someone save me!
I think if you're gonna wear a red lip, you've got to commit to it. Not the guy, the lip.
Do we look like sisters?
I love that. So you threw that together in a matter of...
It was about 8 days.
Wow. It's amazing how we've been able to adapt.
Well, it's surprising how adaptable we can be when we have to be. Right?
Yes.
What choice do we
Don't have a choice.
Just figure it out.
Yeah. So could you tell us about the Beauty Box initiative, which is to support domestic violence charities? I think that was also something you created during lockdown.
Yeah. Look, it was sort of early on, maybe it was early April, I think, when I read an article that Google had put out about their search trends, and there was a 75% increase in search terms relating to domestic violence services. And at the same time, the domestic violence services themselves were saying they'd seen like quite a dramatic drop off in calls. And that just, for me, it just painted this really just horrifying picture of women stuck at home in isolation and trapped with their abusers and not able to get to the phone to sort of call for help. And that just, honestly, it gives me the shivers. It gives me the shivers thinking about it. And I spoke to the team about it and said, look, what do you think we can do? I feel like we need to do something to support these women because this is just really scary. And we're, with the support of our brands, and again, doing all this sort of remotely and trying to throw something together that was big enough to be impactful, but also to do it quickly enough that we could get the money to where it was needed. Like, it was no good sort of going, oh yes, well, we'll plan something in for July. It's like, no, it needs to be now. We were able to put together a little sampler pack. So I think it had 6 or 7 different little sort of mini products in it, and put that out to our customer base as a fundraiser and said, look, it's $20 to buy the pack, and all of that money will go to Safe Steps Victoria, which is a domestic violence crisis service, which provide emergency accommodation and counselling and all of that sort of stuff. And we'd never actually done anything like that before, and so we didn't know how it was going to go. And so Adore chipped in $10,000 donation to start things off, and we wanted to be able to raise a total of $50,000. We weren't sure how it was going to go, and as it turned out, we sold out of all of the packs within 4 days. So it was really heartwarming to see how well people responded. We had so many customers actually saying, they bought like 5 packs, one to give to all of their friends. So the support was just incredible. And we spoke to the Safe Steps team afterwards, and they were able to, sort of with that funds, among others, obviously, they'd been able to, start putting together like a web chat service on their site so that if people did need to call for help, that they could kind of do that silently, so that, to adapt their services to the pandemic. So look, that was a really positive thing.
What an incredible initiative. Was there anything that surprised you about consumer habits or behaviours during this time?
Look, this one is probably not surprising if you think about it, but sales for our sex category were certainly shot up. Yes, that's been one of the very popular self-care categories on the site during isolation particularly, which, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense.
Actually, can you tell us about that category? I think the kind of industry has dubbed it sexual wellness, and you introduced this category to your site. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we don't actually call it sexual wellness. We don't call it any, sort of euphemism. We didn't want to medicalize it. We didn't want to sort of make it, cheeky or naughty. It's just, no, well, can we just can we just call it what it is? And there is absolutely nothing wrong with the concept of women's pleasure. And that was a decision that we made quite early on in the piece, to just call it, it's the sex category. You know, let's just call a spade a spade. And so, you know, you'll notice if you go into that category, then all of the language in there is just very matter of fact. And we think that's really important, because what we really wanted to do with this is to just normalise that entire conversation. I think that whole category, it's never really been run for women. It's always been sort of in the context of, you know, of what men think is sexy, and we just didn't want it to be about that at all. This is just, you know, this is by women for women, and that's the way we're doing it. And I mean, one of the concepts that we thought was really important, because, you know, we want to be able to be upfront and frank about things, but at the same time, we recognise that our customers are at sort of different levels in terms of their comfort discussing sex. And so the concept of consent was just so important. So for instance, you'll see on our site that if you go into the sex category, you won't actually see any products until you pass kind of the consent stage, which says, hey, here's the products that's in here. Here's what we're going to be talking about. You know, we want you to feel comfortable. Are you okay with that? If yes, then you can click through, which sounds really straightforward, but like from a technical perspective, we had to think about where are all the places where a customer might see our product apart from on our site. So for instance, if you visited a door and perhaps we've stalked you around the internet afterwards with pictures of the products that you were looking at, we went, oh, no, we don't want to do that, because that might be really embarrassing, right? There you are on a news site and there's vibrators. And so we didn't want that to be our customer's experience. So we put a huge amount of thought and care into the way that we were going to present this, and it's just been so well received. Like we haven't had a single complaint or anyone getting upset, because we've done it really respectfully.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that kind of falls into the not safe for work category. You'd be like, why is this search following me around the internet?
Oh.
So let's go back a little bit. Could you talk about your own studies and how you developed the skills you needed to build this business?
Oh, look, it certainly wasn't a path that I'd envisaged for myself. You know, finishing up year 12, I was going to go and study law. And so I worked very hard in year 12 to get into law, and I did a whole week of law before realising that was just, no, I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't even want to finish the degree. Certainly didn't want to study it for 5 years. And so floated around in an arts degree for a little bit. My parents were thrilled. And and I started doing some business subjects, and I really enjoyed them. And so I ended up switching into a double arts business degree, and I still have like 7/8 of an arts degree, which I think we can safely say is not getting finished at this point. But look, honestly, I think, you know, university study is kind of not really set up for the day-to-day of how to start and run a business. And so it was really just all learned on the job and making a heap of mistakes and learning from each one of them. So I guess that's kind of, you know, where my growth mindset comes from. Don't know if you've heard about that sort of concept, but if you look up the Carol Dweck TED Talk, it's a really good one where she talks about it. But it's basically the idea that mistakes are not a bad thing. Mistakes are a learning opportunity, and that people can grow and change. I fundamentally believe that, and that's one of the core values at Adore now.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about how you developed your leadership skills? What's important for women going into those kind of higher leadership roles?
Oh, look, where I think about where I came from, which was literally just in the garage with my cat. And then now we have, I think at the last check, we're at 193 employees. I mean, you grow into the job and the job grows you up, right? Like it's a constant process of realising all of the things that you don't know, and also leaning into that a little bit, to just accept that, okay, there's going to be lots of things I don't know, and I'm not here, you know, I'm in a big Brene Brown phase at the moment, and she posted a great Instagram post the other day, and it was like, I'm not here to be right, I'm here to get it right. and to just accept that, growing and stuffing it up, that's just going to be a thing that happens. So we had been, well, just before ISO anyway, had been sort of starting to study with a team of our leaders, the Brene Brown Dare to Lead program, but big Brene fan.
Yeah. Have you ever suffered from like an imposter syndrome, and how have you kind of overcome that during your career?
Yeah, look, regularly. I guess I just kind of, you kind of get used to it as well. And for me, it's that thing of not waiting till you feel confident, because confidence actually comes from doing it and realizing that you can do it. But I did read a tweet the other day that kind of blew my mind and changed my thinking on this. And particularly for women or people of color is, what if the reason you feel like an imposter is because actually maybe you've been treated like an imposter your entire career? And I just went, whoa. So that's also a different way to think about it. But to me, it's more about, one of the techniques I use is to sort of, name that little voice in your head. Mine's called Kevin, but you can call yours whatever you like. But, if there's that little voice that's kind of saying things that's going to hold you back from your goals, to just kind of, compartmentalize that and go, you know what, I'm going to set that aside because you're not helping me right now, Kevin. Thanks very much.
Kevin, you're going in a box.
That's it. It's like, I'm sorry, in the naughty corner for you, Kevin, you can zip it.
Yeah. Congratulations on your partnership with Quadrant Private Equity, which you announced, I think it was last year. Could you tell us a little bit about that process and your experience with it so far?
Sure. Well, look, it kind of started like, if you go back to our Woolworths days. So we actually had an equity partnership with Woolworths back at when was it? End of 2014 through to the end of 2016. And we ended up actually, we sold 25% to Woolworths, and we actually ended up buying those shares back a couple of years later. But my experience is that the right partnership at the right time can really help to catapult your growth. And I mean, during the Woolworths partnership, we were able to triple the size of our business. And so it had been a thing that was on my mind for a while, was that, okay, look, when the time is right, we'll look for that next partnership to kind of make sure that this business can be everything it can be. It's quite a long process to look for the right partner. Like, there's really, for me, it was so, I mean, you hear a lot of bad stories about private equity, and for me, it was really important to find the right partner, that someone that really understood what we were trying to do, was, on board with our culture and our values, and they didn't want to come in and, start ripping things out or telling us, how to do our jobs, or, I wanted someone that valued what we were doing and just wanted to make it even better. And look, I feel like we made a really good choice. It's been actually really great and just a really productive relationship. I mean, it's like 10 months in or something now. And look, it's been really, really positive. They're just massive cheerleaders for our business, and, they just wanted to see us do well. So yeah, I'm thrilled.
You're now executive director at Adore Beauty, and I can imagine that kind of frees up a bit of your time to, think of those big picture issues and concerns and directions. What are your kind of thoughts on issues like sustainability at Adore Beauty?
Yeah, look, that's for us. That's a really important lens to look at our business with. I mean, I feel like it's every business's kind of fundamental responsibility to, I mean, it's one thing to be successful, but if you're doing that at the expense of the planet, then that's not a good outcome, really. And, for us, I feel it's really important to do our bit. And so we've been working on that for a while, and we've made some really good headrows on waste reduction. So we did a massive project that involved spending $500,000 on software, but to be able to accurately size the boxes that we send for the products that are going to go in them, which involved like volumetrically scanning every single product that's on the shelves in our warehouse, and there's like over 13,000 products, and setting up this whole sort of software thing. But what that meant was that we were able to introduce a new smaller box size, which now is like 40% of our box volume, and it's saving like 27 tons of cardboard a year. Wow. So doesn't sound very sexy, but when you realize what the impact of that actually is, you're like, wow, that's really worthwhile. I mean, it's a lot of things around, we don't use like, lots of sort of tissue paper and fancy packaging. It's all, it's all recycled and recyclable, and, we banned keep cups in the office, that kind of thing. So it's part of your induction now that you get a keep cup, although, coronavirus has had it's given us its challenges on that too. A couple of the things that we've done this year in 2020 is we've switched both of our locations, so our office and our warehouse, to using 100% green power. So we're powered entirely by renewable energy, which is really exciting. And we also put this ceramic coating on the roof of our warehouse to keep it cool and insulate it, so that we don't have to air condition it, but our people can still work comfortably and protects the stock. So it's things like that. And, it's not, the work's never done. There's always more to do, and and I'd like to get to carbon neutral, and that involves doing a carbon audit of where all of the places in our business where we can reduce or offset. So there's still more work to do.
Yeah. Are there any lessons you've learned that you'll be taking kind of post-pandemic, changes in direction, learning, strategy?
Look, for me, it's just, it was a thing I already knew, but it's really just reinforced the importance of it, is around communication, because I think, sometimes as a leader, you kind of assume that if everyone's in, when everyone's in the same office, that, the message, gets through. But of course, now that we're distributed and we're all working from home, communication is something that you have to work on a lot more consciously, and making sure that everyone has that message. And we really found that, particularly at the start when we were first going into lockdown, and there was just so much uncertainty and the situation was changing daily. We were having to continually respond to to the advice from the Victorian Department of Health and from the Premier. And certainly what the feedback that we've had from the team is that was just really valuable to have us doing kind of video updates every day and going, okay, right, here's the situation, here's how we're going to address that, here's what the plan is at the moment, here's when we're going to update you next. And then also here are the sources of information that we're following, because there's just so much information flying around the internet, right? And you've got to say, okay, right, here's our source of authority, this is the one that we're following, and so this is what we're going to make our policies based on. But look, the other thing that I think's been really valuable about the whole thing, one of the things that we had to do to sort of keep that communication going was I set up a little kind of 15-minute morning catch-up with our leadership team every morning for everyone to just kind of check in. And we asked just 2 questions of everybody. What was the best thing that happened to you in the last 24 hours, and what are you working on today? And that's been it's been so nice to bond as a group just over our lives. And for me, it's a really valuable perspective in terms of looking at the whole person, not just the person that's, sort of in the office from you, but, their home lives and, their exercise and their pets and the food they're eating and the movies they watch and all that sort of thing. I actually think that's been a really nice thing, and I would like to keep that.
Isn't it funny, you oddly feel a little bit closer to your colleagues because you're seeing them, their kitchen in the background, their kid, their dog, which we weren't privy to previously.
That's it. This is the real person, and this is their home, and I think I like that view.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for in-house brands? Is that something that you will look to, or what's your thinking there?
Oh, that'd be fun though, wouldn't it? Look, I think we certainly have a lot of data. So if anyone's in a position to do that, then yes, we probably could, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, actually, that leads me to my next question, which is about data. As an online business, you obviously have so much information. Are you led by that information, or how do you kind of balance that with your business instinct as well?
Yeah, look, you kind of need both. I mean, we do love data, and because we have so much of it, and we can see the way that consumers behave when they're in our store, and we can see what they click on and what they add to their bag or what they add to their wish list, or what articles they like reading or what articles they scroll past and kind of tell us they're not interested in. And there's so much of that, but I think you still do need that sort of qualitative approach of going, okay, how do I interpret the data to understand the story that it's telling me about what my customer really wants? And often it's looking at, more qualitative data, like say, okay, we could download all of our chat records to see what are the problems that people need solving. And sometimes you do need a much more creative approach to be able to do that. So, I mean, for instance, one of the questions that people ask us a lot is not just, should I buy this product, but I already have this product and I already have that product. And how does this, how do I build a routine out of this? And how does this all make sense together? And so, we've got sort of like a few creative solutions coming through the pipeline that will then use data to test and see what people respond to the best and what sort of things have a positive impact on the customer journey. But look, you definitely need both.
Yeah. And now if we can go to some bigger issues, I guess, that the world is facing globally, one of which is the Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen a number of beauty companies being called out for having non-diverse teams and product lines and marketing and so on. How are you thinking about this at Adore Beauty?
Look, it's such a powerful moment in history, and I think it will, I certainly hope it will be one of those things that brings a lasting change, like the Me Too movement. I remember seeing all of those kind of black squares and going, okay, look, this is such a deeper issue that, we need to be thinking about this a lot more broadly. Like, it's not just going to be a thing that you can kind of fix with a social media post and then move on. It needs to be something that we start using as a lens to how we look at our entire business. And we've been working on a few things for a while, actually, sort of before all of this sort of came to a head on social media. But a few years back, I had a sort of a long time staff member sit me down and said, look, Kate, I'm not sure how to tell you this, but, I've been here for 4 years and I can't buy my foundation shade at Adore. And I was just, it was such an eye-opening moment for me. And I mean, it was something that I sort of realized that, as a bootstrap company, the way that we would buy products for, particularly for makeup lines where they, you might have a makeup line that has 1,000 different products in it, and we couldn't afford to buy all of that inventory. And so for each product, each foundation or lipstick or whatever, if it came in 40 different shades, we'd buy the top 12 in terms of, what were the best sellers, which sort of, at the time seemed like a sensible commercial approach. But when she had that conversation with me, I was so ashamed because I realized that the impact we'd had by doing that was excluding an entire group of people, including people that I knew, and I should have thought about that. And that was a really, eye-opening moment for me. And so, and then the action that we took from that was just went, wow, okay, this is, we can't have that. That's unacceptable. And we need to round out our entire range and buy all the shades that are available in Australia. And then once we'd done that, we realised that, that's still not necessarily an inclusive range, and often a lot of the products, a lot of the shade ranges that are offered to consumers in Australia are still not fully inclusive. And so we, for the last couple of years, been going through a process of lobbying our suppliers and saying, look, we want you to bring in more shades for us, and lots of them have been really supportive on that. So look, it's going to continue to be a work in progress, but it's good, and I feel like we're kind of starting to get somewhere on that. In terms of, diversity is obviously it's a much bigger issue than just race. But we realized last year that our social media feed was just really not diverse enough at all in terms of, the different types of faces that we were representing. And we went, wow, okay, this is, we've got more work to do. And so we actually went through the process of setting some targets for ourselves in terms of what we wanted to reflect, not just in terms of race, but age and religion and, all of the different sort of aspects of diversity. And, and it wasn't something that we kind of we didn't come out and have a campaign saying that we were doing that. We just went, okay, we need to actually just do it and make that change. But, I think for me, the thing that Black Lives Matter really made me realise is that, for Adore, if we want to be a truly inclusive and diverse company, I mean, we need to look at everything that we do during that. We need to look at our recruitment. Is there bias there? What do we need to do to remove that? How will we know if we're succeeding at that? How can we measure it? We're looking at ways that we can engage with our broader team in, to just listen and understand people's different experiences, to even know, okay, what is the next thing that we need to work on. But I don't see this at all as being an issue that you kind of fix and then move on. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, this is an ongoing piece of work, and we all need to continue to educate ourselves.
Yeah. How would you describe, I guess, the culture that you're trying to build at Adore Beauty?
Look, I think we're definitely very values-led. So we have 4 core values that we try and use as not just, I never liked the idea of having sort of values that get, stuck in some kind of induction guide and then forgotten about. For us, they're tools that we use to make our decisions. And so, we do the right thing. We pitch in and help each other. We're always growing. We have that growth mindset, and we believe it of ourselves, but we also believe it of others. So, we always give people the opportunity to grow and change. And we also take a positive approach, which is not just about sort of being Pollyanna all the time, but it's more about, believing that maybe everybody's actually just doing their best, and, we need to, give everybody a chance and come with solutions and not just problems. Mm-hmm. And those things are part of the way that we do business every single day. So they're very much living, breathing values. I think it's obviously it's a high performance business because we've grown just, massive amounts, but I would like to think that we can also allow people that work-life integration, and, everyone in our leadership team has young children, for instance. There's a lot of, certainly at the moment, there's a lot of flexible work, but there was before. So for us, shifting to working from home was not an entire, paradigm shift. It was just like, okay, well, we already kind of worked that way a little bit. So we just all need to do it now. But, offering things like paid parental leave for both men and women to spend like up to 3 months at home fully paid, to get to spend time with your family and give men the opportunity to be primary carers as well. So, it's lots of that kind of stuff.
That's great. What effect do you think the pandemic will have on the beauty industry globally? Services like in-store makeup application, things like that. What direction do you see it going in?
Oh, look, I think people will always want that, but I think right now is probably not the time. And that's certainly been reflected. I actually have a bit of a side hustle. My other business, Foundation, which is a software business that helps you pick, the matching foundation shade online, actually had a huge spike in interest from a lot of global brands who are saying, hey, we need something to help our customers, because not only are they coming into store less, but even if they do come into store, they don't want to touch the testers. They certainly don't want someone touching their face. And so we need another solution for how do we, and I think that's where technology has really got a part to play, is to go, okay, right, how do we solve those problems? Mm-hmm. If you can't touch and feel the product, how do we solve that? How do we make that better? So I think it'll result in actually quite a lot of technological advances.
Finally, on a lighter note, I did want to ask, you guys are renowned for sending out a Tim Tam with all of your orders. I was talking to a friend yesterday about this talk, and she said, I love Adore Beauty. They give you a Tim Tam, Right. So you've become known for this. How many do you guys get through in, a year, or are you just over the side of them?
Oh, look, pallet loads. We go through, pallet loads of the things, it's literally thousands of them every day. I personally can't eat them anymore. Like I've just, I've had so many over the years, and so now I give them to my kids. My kids still like them. But yeah, look, it's been a really nice thing. And for us, it kind of goes to that whole idea is, beauty is self-care. Beauty is a treat for you. what's a feel-good thing that you can have? I think people sort of consider that probably if it arrives in your adore box and it has no calories, which I'm a firm believer in, and we've discovered that, how much people do rely on it. I mean, you can go and buy a packet of them at Woolworths, right? But people really do love getting them in their orders. And we discovered that when, I don't know if you saw our April Fool's Day post, it was last year, but it's worth scrolling back in our feed for. But we put out a thing on April Fool's morning saying that, look, we've listened, everyone needs a healthy option. We think that's really great. So what we've decided to do is we're going to switch out the Tim Tams for Australian organic sultanas. People lost their minds. The number of like really flipped out DMs that we got from that was really quite funny. We're just like, okay, don't muck with the chocolate. It was a funny one.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate. I think we've got some audience questions. So I might just have a look here. So we've got a question from Lachlan. He says, I'd like to ask Kate why she thinks her business was successful when so many other businesses aren't.
Look, it's not a short answer, Lachlan. Look, I think a big part of it is actually continually showing up. Like we never gave up. There was certainly plenty of setbacks. Lots of things went wrong. I started this business way before online shopping was even a thing. The beauty industry wasn't ready for it. Customers weren't ready for it. But I very firmly believed that the way that the beauty industry was treating its customers was wrong. Was treating them like students or like children. They needed to be kind of given permission to buy the products that they want to buy, and they weren't sharing information. And I thought, no, I fundamentally don't agree with that. And so I guess it's about having that purpose and, doggedly heading towards it, even if you have to pivot, how you do things, the why doesn't really change. That's your North Star, and you never lose sight of that.
Mm-hmm. We've got a question from Kate. What has been the biggest setback you've had to overcome in your career so far?
So many to choose from. Let me think. Look, I think probably the toughest thing was the rejection from the brands at the start. That was just ongoing for a long time. And so I just got very used to no, and very used to hearing that. And the beauty industry just didn't want a bar of online because it meant, disrupting the way that they'd done things since always. And, it meant, what it meant for them was letting go of that power over and control over the experience, and actually handing control to the customer. And they were, not super excited about that at the start. And I got no a lot. I got some nice no's. I got some not nice no's, but I did get used to rejection over. It took 14 years before we got a contract with Estee Lauder.
Wow. We've got a question from Mel. What are your go-to products?
Oh my goodness.
The list is long, I'm sure.
Make me choose my favorite children. Okay. Look, I really love, my favorite serum is SkinCeuticals C Ferulic. I'm obsessed with it. I've been through, I don't know how many bottles of it. I absolutely love it.
Is that a good seller on Adore Beauty? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you get addicted to it. It's like once you try it, it's at first going, kind of getting over the price of it and going, oh God, it can't be that good. And then you try it and you go, oh, yeah, it is. Okay, very good. I have an expensive habit now. So look, I love C Ferulic. I really love Ultraviolet Sunscreens. I'm a huge believer in sunscreen. I do not go a day without it. Even here in Melbourne, where it's like 12 degrees and not especially sunny, I still wear it because sun protection. What else do I love? Oh my goodness. So you put me on the spot now. I actually really like Lancome Foundations. I think they're very underrated. I think they're fab coverage. They stay on. I'm using an IT Cosmetics mascara that I really like. I think Aspect is also an excellent skincare range. So you can't go wrong.
I'm sure you change it up all the time. So
Look, honestly, my bathroom cabinet is a joke. It's a mess.
Well, Kate, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been so wonderful to chat. We wish you all the best for the next few weeks. We're really thinking of all our Melbourne neighbours at the moment. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, Remy. Thanks for having me, and we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Melburnians are tough.
Yeah. I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us and who sent in questions. We are sorry we couldn't get to them all. There are a lot of questions come through, but please do look out for future webinars and our events program. You can visit vogue.com.au/codes for the details, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.